Yeah, the whole celebration and the whole meaning for Christmas and all the stuff that people associate with it, the joy and the happiness, and that's all. That really should be part of everybody's everyday life.
Welcome to Monday Mornings with Michelle, the new business podcast. Whether you're kicking off your day or kickstarting your business, Michelle is going to kick your ass into next week with the essential fours: strategy, systems, support, and state of mind. Now, welcome to center stage, Michelle Nedelec.
Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, Raymond. Raymond, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So give us the 5,000-foot view or a highlight of who you are and what you love to do.
I am a pastor for a small motorcycle church in the Chicago area. Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off right there because what is the motorcycle church? That's hilarious and awesome.
So we were a club that used to belong to a mega church, and when COVID closed everything down, we still wanted to get together, and being the rebels we are, we found a place to meet, and we continued to meet. And when the church reopened, what we did was we went back to see how things were going to go, and a lot of people said, I kind of like the small thing. Can we go back to that? So we went back to the small thing. We have one guy with a guitar rather than a whole band, and I spew for about a half an hour, and then we have discussion about what we talked about. So that's kind of how everything seems to click after that when we have the discussion. So that's, pretty much. I'm also I'm a retired. I was in the operations department for a school district here. I just retired, and I'm now working part-time as a glazer. So I fix windows, not donuts.
Put icing on the window.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
we will get into that too, and how you got into glazing is the thing. So going back to the whole motorbike thing, I'm picturing kind of having I'm Catholic by birth, so I'll use weird words, not by practice. But I'm picturing this mass in the middle of a parking lot. So
we actually meet at the American Legion. So it's a veterans hall. I'm a member there. That's how we were able to get the hall. So we meet at a bar.
Okay, I am now liking this more and more. Just saying. Awesome. So you meet at a bar and you cover what kind of topics and what kind of things you.
I pretty much like to just go through the Bible. I'll take a book of the Bible and we'll teach right through it in context, get the history, any archaeological stuff, culture stuff, just kind of let people know what the Bible is, because most people are real intimidated by the Bible. They pick it up. I don't even know where to start. What is it? And so we just kind of break it down little book by book. And like I said, and then at the end, we have a discussion about it.
Very cool. Yeah. So let's talk about Christmas, because, this is where we are and this is what's going on. So what do you guys talk about when you talk about Christmas?
Well, interesting enough, we are, Christmas is on a Sunday this year. Duh. And the American Legion's closed. So we're having our Christmas service this Sunday. And what I'm talking about is the origins of Christmas. How people, I don't know if you've ever heard this or not, but a lot of people, it's going around that it's a pagan holiday. You guys just picked up this pagan holiday and ran with it, and in some sense that's true. Christmas was started out as a pagan holiday, and when Constantine became emperor of Rome, he legalized Christianity. Before that, it was illegal to be a Christian, like it is in a lot of other countries right now. And at that time, there were a couple of big celebrations that went around. Saturn, worshiping the Saturn, and then some other agricultural, off the top of my head, I don't know right now. But he wanted to kind of make those Christian holidays. So he kind of took a lot of the things that we celebrate now, Yule, gift giving, trees, all that type of stuff, that all got wrapped into these things. And so they basically were trying to take over those holidays. And so that was 2,000 years ago. Now you kind of go through the whole thing and people kind of really forget about the whole Jesus thing. And I mean, I'm just walking through stores and everything like that, and everything Santa and everything but Jesus. So it's like, have we come full circle? Have we went from
Right.
the original start to, yeah, we'll do the Jesus thing because, Constantine said we could, and now we're back to, yeah, it's very offensive to a lot of people to talk about God. And so it often gets swept under the rug, that part. You walk through stores, listen to the radio, not a lot of talk about Jesus, but a lot of cool things about the other spirit of Christmas.
Mhm. Well, and I think that the intention of aligning those two celebrations was because the meaning fit in so well. I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense that you're going to celebrate life and a coming and an ability to me, the whole concept of Christianity was to get out of the rules and the regulations and the status quo of what has to be done and more into the feeling and loving and being with other people and that aspect of it. So talk to me about kind of how you see Christmas and what does it mean to you?
I have a very interesting view. I was married. My second wife, we got married December 26th, and that did not end well. So I have, and other things with Christmas too. So my whole Christmas spirit, I've been kind of a Scrooge, to be honest. So that's why I do a lot of digging to try and get back to the roots of it. And I have to work to get into the Christmas spirit. And for me, not like a lot of other people, but was reading this thing about 10 things to get into the holly spirit. And it's, listen to music, decorate your house, all this stuff that just drives me nuts. So for me, I have to get back to the original, what it was meant. Then my joy can come, and then I can start teaching all the other stuff. Just another side history note. We celebrate December 25th, and I'm sure nobody knows when Jesus' birthday was. So it's
sense.
actually, it's actually more probably because of the shepherds and how the shepherds were out, why they were out, and all that stuff. It's probably more between June and October. So I say it was July 21st because it's my birthday. So.
Because it's your birthday. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the whole celebration and the whole meaning for Christmas and all the stuff that people associate with it, the joy and the happiness, and that's all, that really should be part of everybody's everyday life. Can you imagine what kind of world we would live in if everybody had the Christmas spirit on Groundhog's Day? I mean, it would be awesome. And so when I do teach about those things, I like to say, this is what we should be like, especially as followers of Jesus. We should be like this every day. We should be a light to the world. And this maybe is like a renewal for us every year. Maybe we'll take this season to kind of refresh us as we go throughout the rest of the year.
Nice. Well, and I do see it as, well, being Canadian, I see a very cold month before that. And when the colors start to come out and the light starts to come out, and it's like, hey, it's okay that we can kind of chill out a little bit and pun intended, and just relax into, like, everything doesn't have to be stressful. But then there's that waking up moment, and it's like, okay, there is hope. There is, there's an essence of community, and it's not just, like I said earlier, about the rules and the regulations. It's about being able to kind of find out, discover what our light is, if you want to put it that way, and bringing that to the world. And so it becomes time of reflection to slow down and kind of be one with ourselves, and then in the coming year to really figure out how we're going to present that and shine.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I understand exactly what you're saying, and as we're talking, it's like that's really what we need to do. And as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, I still got to get my wife a present. Or not say that too loud. We got
7-Eleven's still open. You're okay.
Yeah. We've got all kinds of food to prepare. We're having guests, we're going out, and just all the stresses that come with this too. So it's not, it's I wish we could have more time to reflect like you're talking about. I think that's what we need more of, exactly what you were talking about. It's just sad that we get distracted by so much of the other busyness, that takes us away, either from worshiping Christ or just from enjoying all of the holidays. Sorry
My
to
sister
interrupt you.
used to have a habit of burning the turkey, and we're like, well, that's okay. It just gives us an opportunity to realize it's not really about the turkey. All good, mate. It's not about the turkey. Well, none of us are going to die because we didn't eat this morning.
I like your family. I like burnt turkey too.
There you go. Well, this one was pretty much incinerated dust, the one I'm thinking about. That was pretty funny. So talk about, what are you going to talk about on during your session on Sunday?
Like I said, we're going to go back to the original intent.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of a history on, what Christmas, where it came from, how it got to where it is. And then just want to finish up just a reflection, way, how much do you get caught up and distracted from the message of Christmas? I mean, it is Christmas, Christ, and how much you get distracted from all of the other stuff, how much, how much is it like, I spend 5 minutes a day thinking about Jesus and 9 hours a day wrapping presents, cooking food, making my list, checking it twice, what's distracting. And as you're doing that, is that also distracting you from the joy of everything that you just said, Michelle? All the, hey, I get to spend time with family. For some people, that's a good thing. For some, but
so when you think about Jesus, what do you think about? I'm assuming it's not a person that lived once upon a time. What do you think about?
Yes, no, I believe Jesus was a real human being. Did walk the earth.
So you're having conversations with them. What are you doing when you think about them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I believe that I have a personal relationship with Jesus. That's why he came. Another thing with the whole history, we celebrate the birth of Christ. The early, up until the 300s, until Constantine made it legal and did all this stuff with Christmas, they never celebrated Christmas. They only celebrated Easter. I mean, the whole point of Jesus coming to earth, like the shepherds that were out gathering the lambs, the lambs were there to be sacrificed at the temple. Jesus came to be a sacrifice for humanity. And when you think that the birth of Jesus was really just so God could become man and then sacrifice his life like they did with the lambs, so that you and I could have an opportunity to have that relationship with him, one that was screwed up because of our sin. And he did everything to redeem that. So when I think of that, then all of the joy that we talked about, that all just floods in, and it's like, okay, God does really love me. I am here for a reason. I do have a purpose in life, and it's an eternal purpose. I mean, I always say what quarter we're in, say we live up 80 years. So it's, first quarter, second quarter, third. I'm entering the fourth quarter.
Let me guess, you're an avid football player too.
The real one, not this World Cup stuff. Sorry for anybody who's, you can edit this, right?
All good.
But yeah, it's so how do I want to end my life? I do believe in eternity. Jesus talked about it. And how do I want to end my life here? Do I want to do it serving him, or do I just want to live for myself and roll the dice at the end of my life and, hope the good things outweigh the bad things? And who's the judge of that? And how do I know? I prefer to live as God intended. That's what I say. When people say, oh, you got to obey the commandments, I always say, well, I like to live as God intended me to live. And I believe that comes through the Bible and reading the Bible and understanding that and really seeing his love.
I just like that. So talk to me about what the meaning of the sacrifice was, because I hear a lot of people that I think misinterpret it, because all of a sudden it takes a really dark turn. It's like, that's not what it was meant to do. The whole point of sacrificing a sheep wasn't to kill the sheep. So talk to me about your interpretation.
It was meant to atone for sins. God was kind of setting that whole system up, and it wasn't just Christianity. I mean, other people had sacrifices going all the way back to, in the Bible, back to right after everybody split up and left. I mean, they were sacrificing babies, they were sacrificing all kinds of stuff, sacrificing women, whoever. They would just sacrifice everything, and it was to appease the God. And so whenever the Jews had to sacrifice, they had to sacrifice a perfect animal. It had to be an unblemished animal to be sacrificed. So that's why God could only sacrifice a perfect being to atone for our sins, and that was Jesus. That's why I believe in the virgin birth, because I believe, if it wasn't from God, although it was prophesied in the Bible, if it wasn't from God, it wouldn't be a perfect, unblemished sacrifice. So that sacrifice of Jesus was perfect. And that's why Easter for me is a more important holiday than Christmas, because it was the resurrection. It was when Jesus rose from the dead. That was okay. How many other people have done that? You go to Jesus' tomb and it's still empty. You go to other people's tombs and in memory of, they're still there. Go to Israel and Jesus' tomb is empty. So the sacrifice of Christ was God doing everything. We don't do anything. We can't. We're imperfect, ugly, sinful beings that really have no business being in the presence of a holy God. But God loved us so much that he decided that he was going to give the opportunity. And he says, I'll do this, follow me. And that's all he asks. He knows we're going to screw up, and we do. And I'm the chief of screwing up.
I personally love our imperfections and our sloppiness. I think it's what allows us to be creative and all sorts of fun aspects of that. So, and
you ride a motorcycle?
I do, actually.
Oh, well, then you can come over by
Hot pink ninja.
You'd fit right in.
Yeah, nice. That the whole point of the sacrifice and appeasing the gods was because clearly something was going wrong in their lives, and going, hey, maybe the gods are ticked, so we got to appease gods. And by doing the sacrifice, they're bringing life back into whatever it is that was going on for them, whether it was dead fields or dried water or bad relationships or whatever. And I think too that being able to kind of understand this whole idea and notion of Christianity is an opportunity to be able to bring life and hope and happiness back into one's own world. And to me, to not get caught up in the wording of stuff, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people, it was ironic to me growing up that all of the Bible verses that I ever read was, hey, get out of the wording of it and get into the feeling of it. We're not here because, Sunday's a Sabbath. We're still going to eat. Like, people are more important than the rules. And growing up in a Catholic church in the 70s, it was all about the rules and the words. And if you had to get caught up in it, it's like, it's a little hypocritical and ironic, don't you think? You're getting kind of stuck in the shit again.
Our motto at the church is read the book. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, when you read the book, you'll see that's not really in there. When you read the book in context, a lot of the things that are said are just, a lot of people like to take verses out of context. And I'm sure you've been taken out of context, where you say something and somebody says, this is what Michelle said. And you're like, that's not at all what I said. God's up there, I imagine, half the time looking at people that are taking stuff out of the Bible going, That's not what I said. Read the book. And
Right.
that's why I take it verse by verse, book by book, so we get the whole meaning of it.
Nice.
But yeah, and I didn't grow up in the church. We were what they call them now, Creasters, Christmas and Easter Christians. We would go on Christmas and Easter, and that was the only time I ever stepped foot in a church. So
That's funny. So
it was
what made you decide to go in full-fledged?
a friend of mine took me to that church I was telling you about, and before I could drive, and then we just kind of stopped going, and I had this big huge party at my house, and my parents were supposed to stay overnight in the city, and they didn't. They called me and said, we're coming home. And so I had like 60 people I had to get out, clean up and everything. And I had one friend that stayed with me, and she, after we're done cleaning up, we're going, this isn't high school. It's
I
like,
was going to say, this wasn't recently.
yeah, no.
Hey, mom and dad are crashing your house.
Yeah. It's like, is this really all because I was, 70s, 80s kids, sex and drugs and rock and roll. That's all I needed. And, and it's like, at that early age, it was like, there's got to be more to life than this. And unfortunately, I had a bunch of friends that never figured that out, and they're all gone now. So we started going to the church, and just after listening, and that's kind of how what they used to teach was just like I through the Bible, and it just all started to make sense. And I knew nothing about the Bible, nothing. And just started picking it up and started reading it. And then after examining it, there's a book by a guy named Josh McDowell called Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And he was an atheist who set out to prove that Christianity was completely false. There was no Jesus, there was no, there's all that stuff is a bunch of garbage. He ended up through all of that becoming a follower of Christ. And when I started going to college, I had to, my first class, I took a world religions class because, hey, I'm going to do this. My teacher was an ex-Presbyterian minister who just shot me out of the water every day in class. It was just humiliating. But I got an A on every paper using the stuff from this Evidence That Demands a Verdict, because he knew, a lot of that stuff was true and couldn't be refuted. So it was, and that just kind of began this long walk of ups and downs and ups and downs, and, a lot more downs, like you said, if those are the things that make us who we are, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for so many of the downs that I went through.
Nice. Love that. So in understanding those moments and the downs, as you will, how do people know kind of what to keep and what to leave? I know my mother almost had a heart attack when I got a motorbike. It's like, I'm 40, I can handle it. It's all good. It's not like I'm going racing at like 300 miles an hour. It's like I'm riding my granny bike. So but talk to me about that. Like, what do you hope that people let go of in their lives that aren't serving them, and what to embrace?
My hope and prayers, I mean, for our church, for any of my friends, my family, that they'll begin to understand and have an eternal perspective, that, the Bible says that God put eternity in our hearts, that we all kind of think that there might be something after this when we die. And I believe we get so distracted with wanting everything to go our way here and now, that when we reach the fourth quarter, some of us get into overtime. Again, how many people have you ever heard on their deathbed say, boy, I wish I would have spent, more hours working. I wish I would have, done all this stuff and not been able to see my family or my friends, or, experience the true things in life that are really meaningful. You work 90 hours, 80, 90 hours a week, and you don't see your family, and your kids grow up, they don't know you. And then you realize that, I'm going to take my last breath pretty soon. I hope there is no God, because I really screwed up. My goal is that people would say, I think it's time. I still have breath to make things right with God and come to peace with God and family and everything. So my goal is that people won't be so distracted by the things of this world that they'll be able to set some time aside and think about eternity.
Very cool. I like that. So when it comes to kind of Christmas as you know it, what are some of the most important aspects of it to you?
Well, first off is obviously remembering the birth of Christ, and not to be distracted from that. And it's a constant distraction. But after that, it's, getting together with family. It's kind of one of those forced times. Again, like I said, we should be doing this all year round, but we get so distracted by others. But Christmas is one of those times we're kind of almost forced to get together with family. Maybe it's a little too soon for Thanksgiving. I don't know, you guys don't have Thanksgiving, but we got November and then we got Christmas.
We just have it earlier when there's an actual harvest.
Oh,
we have snow in November, so we do
yeah,
it in
good
October
point.
when we still have vegetables.
I didn't know that. I learned something new today.
There you go.
But yeah, it's all about family. Like I said, putting aside all the rush things and having meaningful conversations, drawing closer to each other, things that, when we get so caught up in life, you just kind of bypass all that stuff. So family, hope, like you had talked about earlier, there has to be some hope in this world. The world's kind of going to hell in a handbasket. I heard somebody say we're on a slippery slope. He goes, no, we're kind of on a bobsled right now. And there has to be some hope. And I think it's times like this when we can gather around our families and close friends and just kind of reassure and encourage each other that there is hope in this world still.
I love that. So do you guys do virtual as well as in person, or is everything that you're doing right now in person? How do you operate?
I am, as you have found out, very technically inept. So we do have some people that have a little bit more savvy than I do. We have one girl who she does a Facebook Live on our Facebook page. It's Route 316 is our Facebook page, and she does a live, and she also wants to start doing YouTube stuff and
all the techie stuff.
Whatever. If you want to hear, come. If you don't.
Awesome. So for our peeps that are in the Chicago area, where are you?
We are in Roselle, Illinois. We are at the American Legion on Maple, 344 Maple in Roselle, and we meet at what we call it the Gather Up at 8 o'clock. It's when everybody comes together for an hour. We have just coffee, cake, talk, fellowship. We get all of our motorcycle talk and stuff out. And then at 9 o'clock, we call it Saddle Up. And that's usually that's when we go on a ride. Hey, saddle up. So everybody gets on and we take off. So that's when we start our service. So Saddle Up is at 9 o'clock. And then it goes for about 2 hours, 9 till 11. Like I said, most of it's just based on the discussion. And the discussion is where all the growth happens. That's where all of our the friendships go. Like I said, we're still small. We're still only about 25 people or so. And, if everybody came, we'd be who knows how many, but it's like everything else. Yeah, if everybody comes, you got a big place. But that's when all what I believe church is really about. It's about not sitting and listening to some schmuck talk for a half an hour. It's what goes on afterwards when you start really talking and interacting and asking questions. And it's not just me. We have a bunch of people that, we interact, and, it's very unique. It's not a typical church.
Clearly.
and then we get on the bikes and ride,
Yeah.
except for now.
Fair enough. So I'm assuming they don't have to have a bike, but
no, they don't. You do not have. We have several people that don't have bikes at all. But
who's most suited for this? Who?
I use a lot of motorcycle references that people can get. it's for the people that I want to say screw ups. That's not everybody's a screw up, but you're a biker,
We're special kind of crazy. I like to say that we're a
exactly.
special kind of crazy.
Exactly. You strap yourself to 5 gallons of gas, on a bike that gets to be a couple, it feels like 1,000 degrees and let's go ride.
Awesome.
So you got to have a little bit of nuts in you. But yeah, we have people of all. I mean, my wife never ever thought she'd ever get on a motorcycle, and now, every ride she wants to be on, she wants to go with. And so it's but yeah, we have people that have never been on a motorcycle in their life. They
maybe you just want to go and ride the motorbike.
exactly. They have no intention, don't want to, but they enjoy what we do, how the service works.
I love it. So I get to ask you at this point, at what point in life did you know that you were a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Well, when I was 10 years old, my dad, I was actually in Saskatchewan fishing. I came home from a fishing trip in Saskatchewan. My dad said, "You want a job?" I'm 10. I'm like, doing what? He goes, "Sweeping floors." I said, "Okay." And he goes, "All right." So he calls his buddy. He goes in. I'm 10 years old. He gets me dressed up in my Christmas outfit. And so I go in there. I fill out an application. I go through the whole interview process. My dad just thought that he was, teaching me a lesson, on what life's going to be like. I get the job. I start working. I love it. Continue. I was at the glass company. So I learned how to cut glass, fix windows, do storm windows, all this stuff. And comes time for college. And my dad says, "Well, where are you going to go to college?" And I said, "I'm not going to college." He goes, "Yeah, you are." It was at, well, we're the same age. It was at that time when it's like, okay, now everybody's got to go to college or you're pretty much a loser. And I'm like, I don't want to go to college. So he thought about it for a while and eventually said, "There's going to come a time when everybody has gone to college and nobody's going to know how to use a screwdriver, and you'll be able to charge whatever you want." And that time is pretty much now.
Right.
So I did that for a while. I was going to buy my boss's company, and then his son decided he didn't want to be an actuary, whatever that is. And so he went into the business, and I kind of had all my eggs in that basket. So I applied at a school district. Remember, my goal in high school was to get out of high school. God put me in a high school for 25 years. He has a sense of humor, for those of you that don't think he does. And during that time, some of my ups and downs, I went through 2 marriages, and had my rough times. And then was at that time that I got my motorcycle. My dad was in the insurance business, so there was no motorcycles when I was there. My first wife said she'd rather be a divorcee than a widower. My second wife sent me into oblivion. So between the second wife and the third wife, there was nobody to tell me no. So I went out and I got my motorcycle. And that's when I, found this group of people, started riding with them and started to get my life back together. My relationship with God got stronger and stronger. There was an opening for a leadership position there. So I was able to fortunately get that position. When our church went through a lot of problems, that closed down, and I don't even know how it happened that I became a pastor. I went to college for three classes. I have 3 Bible classes under my belt. And my favorite one was hermeneutics, which is just a big word for biblical interpretation. So I love that class. So that's what really helps me with all of this. But most of it's just digging in on my own and, getting stuff from other people. And so our business, hopefully one day we'll have enough where I can do this full time and not do the glass business. Because while my dad said there will come a time when you will be able to charge whatever you want, he forgot to say you need to stay in shape too. So that when that time comes, you're able to climb a ladder and
do all those fun
lift that
things.
stuff. Yeah. And so the body's getting a little fourth quarter-ish.
Fair enough, and I can appreciate that. So when it comes to the glazing, what actually are you doing?
Well, I was the manager at the company before I left. So when they heard I retired from my job. They said, hey, you want to come back? You can do whatever. We could use you in the office. We could use you in the shop. We could use you on the road. And, after doing some stuff in the office, I think I'd rather be on the road. So somebody throws a brick through a window, we go fix it. Somebody drives a car through a storefront, we do the whole storefront. Mirrors, pretty much everything except for auto glass. I don't do any auto glass. But yeah,
Awesome.
new
Super
windows,
fun.
repair windows. I've been doing it my whole life, so it's kind of second nature. It was an easy job to step into.
So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. Is there any way that they can start the journey other than just showing up at 8 a.m. or I assume it's a.m.?
Yeah, which is tough too for us bikers.
Right?
Like I said, we have a Facebook page. It's Route 316.
Okay.
And right now, so we're still in the process of trying to figure out how to do this YouTube stuff. I have a very good friend of mine that's working, with another guy on our website, a mutual friend. And so we're trying to get all that together. We've only been around for a year, and it was kind of, is this going to work or isn't it going to work? And it seems that God is using it for good things.
Nice.
So
I love that. We will, of course, have all of your links in the show notes. Peeps, you know where to find those. And you can always go to awarenessstrategies.com/blog and look for Raymond or Christmas or Route 316. Find out the real story behind that name and all the fun stuff that goes with it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very fun. It has been awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
All right.
So
have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Yes. I was going to say, any last words for our peeps?
Yeah, I really hope and pray that everybody watching today will really take some time. Just sit down 15 minutes, turn all the garbage off, turn your TV off, turn your phone off, and just really just sit and think about life, where you are. I mean, we ride bikes. We don't know if we get on a bike if somebody's going to be texting and not see us, and then we're standing at the pearly gates. We don't know when our time is up. We don't have an expiration date. And so often the word is just worry about yourself, live for yourself, get all the gusto you can for yourself, because it's all about you. And, it's really not. I always talk, do you know what your great grandfather did for a living? No. And your great grandkids aren't going to know what you did for a living. But look into God, look into the promises of the Bible where it says that we will have an eternal life. Especially now, Jesus came into the world to be that sacrifice. Celebrate, get tight with your family, but look into the claims of Jesus.
Cool. Thank you, Raymond, for your time. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
Oh, thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Peeps, this is Michelle Nedlak. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow. Thank you for listening to our show. I'm all about being a resource center for entrepreneurs to give them the information and the support that they need to make it in business. As such, the notes for this show can be found at our website at awarenessstrategies.com/blog. Be sure to subscribe, give us a rating. I like 5 stars personally, and share with your friends.